Recently, the Girl Scouts of America launched a lawsuit against the now former Boy Scouts of America for copyright infringement. Anyone who knows the details of the case can see that it is not a frivolous one, as the Boy Scouts dropping "boy" from their name puts them into a perceived center organization, and all others to be viewed as lesser offshoots, when the original intent was for the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts to be viewed as organizations of equal status. We all know the story of the Boy Scouts changing their name because leftist pressure forced them to start admitting girls. The admitting of girls came as a result of leftist pressure for the Boy Scouts to start admitting children who had been brainwashed into thinking they were transgendered. The admitting of, quote, transsexual children came as a result of leftist pressure to force the Boy Scouts to start admitting boys who had been brainwashed into believing that they were homosexual. The admitting of homosexual boys came as a result of leftist pressure to force the Boy Scouts to start admitting homosexuals to hold positions of Scoutmasters. At this point, you can see a pattern of chain degeneracy and how it has gradually chipped away at the Boy Scouts until it is now completely destroyed. But what most people do not know is that there is a deeper, darker starting point to the decline. A sinister starting point, one that has been gaslighted out of the public's mind long ago. In 1979, the Boy Scouts was rocked with a major scandal, a scandal that rivaled Pizzagate. But this was officially confirmed, resulting in arrests and convictions. A story broke that a Scoutmaster was discovered to be a homosexual who had been caught raping boys in his troop while on camping trips. The story went national. It wasn't long before it became known the Scoutmaster had a long history of raping boys, as men who were scouts under him for years began stepping forward. In those times, admitting you were a victim of sexual assault did not earn you instant fame, honor, or praise like the Me Too movement of today. It was an admission of deep shame, so those who came forward were taken very seriously. Soon more young boys all across the world were stepping forward and coming together to find out that there were masses of scouts being raped by their Scoutmasters. To the public's horror, it had become clear that the Boy Scouts was infested with homosexuals working their way into the ranks for easy access to young boys. The problem was so big that the Boy Scouts of America had to issue a public statement that they were instituting a screening process to keep child predators from joining the organization. But no one knows just how high the homosexuals went. During this time, as the media was going full speed on reporting on child molesters on every street corner, the media was simultaneously running a full-scale operation to teach the public that a man who rapes a boy is not a homosexual, to convince the masses that they were somehow not the same thing. This was most notable in an episode of Different Strokes, where Arnold and a friend fall trap to a man who invites them to his house, coerces them to unclothe, and he proceeds to take their pictures. The authorities get involved and the man is arrested. Then the family sits down for a chat.
The sad part is, they can emotionally scar a child for life. Man, I never would have guessed that Mr. Horton was, gay. But he's not, Willis. That's the common fallacy about child molesters. They're not gay. They're only interested in little boys or little girls, not adults.
Look, I'm only 11 years old. Should I be hearing all of this?
Gay. But he's not, Willis. But he's not, Willis. But he's not, Willis. But he's not, Willis.
The officer claims that a homosexual is a man who has sex with men, not boys. Therefore, the criminal was not a homosexual. Yet the Boy Scouts was forced to start admitting homosexual boys. This demonstrates the strict adherence the wording of a dictionary definition was used specifically to protect the homosexual community from their child predatory practices. After the Boy Scouts implemented their new policy, things became quiet, while cases of homosexual Scoutmasters raping young boys continued. It had become more infrequent, and the media was no longer reporting the cases until it was both forgotten and accepted as just par of the course for being in the Scouts. Then in 2014, the Boy Scouts announced that they were going to allow homosexual boys. The following year, they lifted the ban on homosexual men holding the Scoutmaster positions. It was clear that the Boy Scouts had waited until their dark past had faded to time, as the 80s generation had grown up and moved on, and a fresh new crop of young boys was now being raised by degenerates of academia and the media. In the end, the homosexuals who were at the top of the Boy Scouts became free to have access to young boys. Boys who were open to experimentation to fit the new social trend. The Boy Scouts started as a great institution to teach young boys how to be self-sufficient men and valuable members of society. It was hated by those who hate Western society and know the best way to destroy our society is to start with our young men. Perverts moved to shift it away from the real perpetrators and try to portray straight men as the problem. And then once the homosexuals had free control over the organization, it was quickly dismantled in a possible act of both hatred and a vendetta for the 80s that saw so many of their fellow homosexuals put in prison for their crimes. My labyrinth is expanding. Join me by following on all the social media networks it reaches. Links are in the description. By doing so, the labyrinth cannot be closed. When the censors block off one path, others will open. The labyrinth is not centralized. I am not seeking monetary gain. I am not beholden to any payment processors or such systems. I will watch from the shadows and share with you the truth.